Yeah.
I'm the loud guy.
It's really bad for your voice. It's bad for your singing voice.
Really?
Yeah.
To be a loud talker?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, just talking's worse for your voice than singing a lot of times.
That's wild.
And whispering is worse than normal talking.
Really?
Yep.
I've been doing a lot of meetings whispering lately.
Whisper meetings.
So do you think this budget will actually work better for you?
Oh my gosh.
Dude, I would give you the rundown of how the show goes, but you already know how the show goes.
I do.
We've done this before.
Yes, I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, I am very, very stoked that you were down to be back on. A return guest. I've only had a few return guests at this point.
Yeah?
And because now, I mean, there's been enough years between me starting this show and having early guests on to now being able to bring people back around where I feel like enough life has probably happened for most of my guests to be like, all right, you know what, if we sat down again, I think we'll have plenty to catch up on.
Yeah, I feel like a lifetime has passed
Yes.
since I was here last.
Yes,
So.
I feel like there is, I would say a lot to catch up on, but you and I see each other relatively often nowadays.
We do. More often now than we did when we first
For
did.
sure, back then.
Yeah.
So maybe it's more so catching up the world of what you don't hear up on things that you've been doing. But yes, I am very, very stoked to kind of like formally catch up in podcast form because, I mean, you were one of the original 10 episodes.
I think, first
of
10
this show.
First 10 episodes.
You were like episode, I want to say like 5 or 6 or 4 or something like that.
It was definitely. I do think it was top 5. I was looking the other day, just kind of catching up on some more recent episodes and kind of scrolling back to that episode, and I think it was like 5 or 6 maybe. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, even though this is my show, but I'm like, I kind of don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
So I guess to just kind of like start at the very top, like I'm just going to throw you a very large question.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to fill me in on like, how would you say your life has changed from that original interview back in what technically would have been late 2019 at the time that I was recording that to launch in 2020?
Yeah, man, so much has changed. I feel like I came on originally for that episode, and we were in the middle of putting out 3 singles for The Fears. We had just done some live videos. So from a music standpoint, we were in a very similar place to where I'm at now. But yeah, it's funny, as I've gotten older, I'm 32 now. I would have been, late 20s then. It's sad that I can't do the math. 6 years. 6 years. 2019 to 2025. 6 years.
You could tell me, I was 14 when we did that. I'd be like, sounds right, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the biggest thing that has changed is what I've learned about myself, what I have learned about what I need to be just a healthy person in general. And it's funny, I feel like maybe in 6 years from now, I'll look back on this moment in the same way, and hopefully so. But I feel like at that time, I felt that I knew so much. I was like, I've got this going, this is going, this is going to turn out the right way. Like, all of this great stuff is happening. I'm on top, not on top of the world, but like everything is right. Everything is as it should be. And then you find out that it's not. And yeah, I just think I wasn't prepared for that little bit of rise and fall. I think now I've learned to ride the wave of life a little more efficiently and not let the high points feel so high and the low points feel so low. So, from a very abstract point of view, that is what feels the most different to me. Other things that have changed, I have a full studio now. I have more time to spend on music, which has been awesome. And a lot has changed for me as an artist as well. So, yeah, it's kind of that classic situation, and it's happened so many times in my life before also, where you're kind of grateful things didn't work out a certain way at that time, because what you realize is you end up in a better position after you get through, whatever difficulty you're facing, whatever thing happens in the world, whether it is loss of a job, loss of a loved one, a pandemic, which is a big part of what happened, then in 2019. Just the ability to kind of let things ebb and flow. I would say that's the biggest change for me.
Yeah, and actively at that point in time, I'm trying to remember, like, how long had the Fears as a music project been around when we were recording at that point in time?
Yeah, not a super long time. I mean, maybe when we did that episode and kind of at the height of round one of the Fears, that was probably about a year or so. And that was my first attempt at getting sober, was 2018, 2019. And
I don't know if I knew that, or if I might have forgotten. I didn't know there was like attempt one of doing that. There was an attempt one where I was just like, you know what, I'm not enjoying my life. Things aren't really going the way that I saw them going. Music was always something that was very important to me, and that had started to be affected by drinking. And so attempt number one, I was just like, you know what, I need to put this down for a while. Like, I want to focus on my music. So I did that, and it was kind of like this big rush of creativity came back, and this big desire to push the limits, of what I was doing. That was probably about 2018, and I got really serious about music. I found a band. I found 4 other people here in Columbus that wanted to be a part of it. So that was really the genesis of doing music outside of just my own name, touring as just like a folk singer-songwriter, which was kind of how I got my start, and was awesome. I loved that. It was super accessible, but I just wanted to have a band. I wanted to change the sound a little bit. So in 2019, kind of late 2019, that was the result of several months of kind of pushing myself in that direction, getting a band together, getting singles recorded. We did some really awesome video work together as well. So, all of these great things were happening, and just kind of, it was kind of I'm on top of the world moment, maybe my own world, which I was. It was the best music at that time that I had put out, and having a band was really cool. It's a different ball game. You have a full sound. It's taken a little more seriously for whatever reason, whether that's right or wrong. But it just felt good. It felt more legit. It felt more official. So that was the lead up to late 2019. Was trying to get sober, really pushing and working towards the Fears as a band and as a project. So, you know what's interesting when I think back to that time? Like, I remember when I originally wanted to bring you on. It was more to talk about like this blend of like creative work and creative agency work, because I know obviously we told the story of Via and working together in that in your original episode. And I almost feel like at that point in time, like, the music was almost this, like, 1B sort of thing. Like, and that's from my, like, outside perspective at that point in time, even though we were friends.
Right.
I just remember, like, approaching that episode being like, yeah, okay, we're going to really talk about, we're going to talk about your creative agency work and all of that and what you want to do with that. And then, okay, yes, and then now you've been developing out this band, and that's also, obviously became uncovered a much larger part of the story.
Yeah.
Where now I feel like a lot of this episode is kind of going to be a lot more catered to what you're now doing with the Fears. Because I even feel like, as a friend, I now, I don't know if this will sound weird, but it's like I now view you as a musician first, compared to anything else. Where back at that point in time, I was like, this is the dude who started a creative agency who hired me, and I worked for him for a year.
Yeah.
And he happens to do music as well. Like, does that explanation make sense?
No,
like,
it makes total sense, and I think it's such an important piece of the story, and I'm sure a lot of what we will cover in this episode is how that changed, and what was the catalyst for that change. But yes, that was very much the case. I think at that time, as a musician and as an artist, I didn't have a very good understanding of all of the work that it takes to be successful, and whether that's successful, on paper in the eyes of others, or successful in the sense that you're putting in all of the work that you need to put in to build a foundation and build an audience and build a following and position yourself to continue to grow. I don't think that I really had any idea at that time what that looked like. I think that's probably normal. That was, in a way, the trajectory, right, of going from, I'm a solo artist. I have a couple singles out just under my name, under Nathan Winkelmes, and I'm playing shows here and there as a solo artist. So, that was kind of the infancy of my music career, and moving into the Fears was, in a way, it was a lot of growth, but at the same time, it was a lot of just misunderstanding of what you have to do and what needs to happen in order to, I hate to say be taken seriously, because I think everybody should be taken seriously. I think all art should be taken seriously, but just to take it to the next level where you're like, okay, I'm actually putting in real work into this. I'm not just, playing a show every few months and putting a single out here and there and, posting a couple photos on Instagram. Like, at that time, to me, that was like, oh, this is what you do, and you just keep doing this. And that has changed so dramatically. My view on that has changed so dramatically between that time and now.
Yeah,
So
I feel like I've been having that conversation, as I'm sure you have, or I'm sure you and I have, over a Chipotle bowl over the last couple of years.
Yes.
But, I feel like I've been having that conversation quite often with a lot of creatives or even entrepreneurs of any size, is like that version of what we believe success was has changed. And what I mean by that is not just growing and maturing and all that sort of stuff, but I feel like a lot more nowadays, people are beginning to really create in a way that they want to create, and then share in a way that they want to share. And it's not so much, back in 2019 and a couple years before that, essentially, I would say until a couple years ago, it kind of was like, what should I do how should I promote this or brand this in a way that trends and algorithms say that I should? I need to follow this checklist that everybody else is doing. And nowadays, I feel like there are a lot of people, for sure, myself included, I will scream this from the mountaintops, there's a great balance and harmony to be had, for sure. But I feel like a lot of people, we're starting to kind of rebel against the system, for lack of a better term, but this new system that's been created by social media and what it means to market yourselves now. And I know you and I have talked a lot about this, of like, even you figuring out how you want to market the Fears now as yourself, and like understanding that line of like, well, I need to show up online, but how do I want to show up online? I want to do stuff that is fun and enjoyable for me to do. And I feel like that's where a lot of people are landing now. Like, what does that change look like for you, of going from maybe back then being like, okay, I feel like we need to get these good photos and these good videos, and I need to just follow the steps, to where now it is, as I say, an outsider, but also somebody that is closely working with you on your project and other things, I do feel like there's a lot more clarity from your standpoint in that, of like, I just want to make stuff because I want to make it.
Yeah, I think yes, there is a lot more clarity. I think that for me, when I in the era where it was just, oh, I'll just post a couple photos here and there, and I'll add the audio of the song over it, and one day, you know, hopefully it'll just randomly get 10,000 likes, right? Like that was kind of the mindset that I'll say trapped in, because it's so not true. It doesn't work that way in my experience. Maybe it has for others, but I think now I've shifted gears more towards, for one, posting and sharing things that I want to share, that make me feel the most connected to my work, my music, my art. And I think that's a super important piece of it for the long term, because if you're not doing something that you feel connected to, I think you're going to burn out on it. So I definitely don't want to feel burnt out with what I'm doing. And I think the landscape has really changed too, because even back then it was, you know, TikTok was in its infancy, and these, you know, algorithms that drive a lot of social media platforms now were in their infancy and not as strong as they are now. So yeah, so it was different. You could find your audience a little bit easier, I feel, and you could continue to engage with them long term in a much easier way than you can now, because everything is so algorithmic, and your content is rewarded for, you know, how many times over and over people watch it, right? Or you know, yes, likes and comment counts and all of that, but I think that a big part of it is just rewatchability and how that leads to something going viral and keeping attention, because the goal of these platforms is no longer to help you connect with your audience, it's to keep as much attention as possible. They want everybody's attention, and I'm not going to say that that's a bad thing. I think it's just a different thing, and it's what's changed the most in the social media landscape, and I think we just have to be aware of it so that we can use that as we set goals. You know, it's different than it used to be. Now it's, you know, we do have to consider, okay, am I going to be able to capture attention and keep attention in a way that elevates this piece of content and gets more engagement? So for me, I'll use an analogy, kind of how I approach writing music is I try really hard, and it's really hard to do, I try really hard not to think about who's going to listen to this, or what genre is this, or how is this going to be received. I try really hard just to think about, does this song make me feel good? Is it serving me in some way? And is it cathartic for me? Is it releasing something that I need to release? And then once that process is done, then you can think about, okay, who's going to listen to this? How is this going to be received? How do I position this? What genre is this? What playlist does this need to go on? And so because you do have to think about it that way eventually, it's hard not to get mixed up in that. But that's just part of becoming a better artist, I feel, is learning to separate that stuff. And it's something that is different for artists now too, because before all of this, even before the internet, you didn't really have to be the artist and the marketer. And you don't necessarily have to be now if you catch a break, or, you know, your album pops off and takes off and you sign with a label, or you sign with some kind of PR agency, and all of those things are super great things and super great goals to have, and something that I think about often too. And so when you get to that point, you know, you don't have to think as much about, okay, I've got to be a really good marketer too, just like I have to be a good writer and a good producer. But in this stage of the game where so many people are at, and like you said, so many more people can be creative now. And even though we're pointing out some of the what we would call flaws in the system, the maybe the overreach of the algorithm and how that affects us as creatives, it's also like a huge opportunity. It's definitely the best time that it's ever been to be a creative person, whether you're a musician, you're a painter, whatever the case may be. It's never been easier to, if you like to paint or draw, it's never been easier to set up a camera above you and do a time lapse and put music over it and share that with the world and like find the people that love that. So you couldn't do that 20 years ago. So just for the record, I feel that there's more new opportunity than there are, detrimental changes to the system. But it is just completely different. So with that analogy of looking at my music first as, does this serve me, finishing it, and then secondly saying, okay, how do I promote this, how do I market this, how do I get this to as many people as possible. I am definitely still in a big learning phase with this. In a lot of ways, I feel like I am just now starting to navigate social media properly and think about my following as an ecosystem. And I'm definitely in the infancy stages of that still, just because of all of the stuff that has transpired between our last episode and now, which I'm sure we'll dive more into. But I try to take that same line of thinking with creating content and saying, okay, I want to create something that I like and I think is fun and I think is cool, that will serve as a piece of promotional content to engage my audience, right? I want to make it for me first and then, get it to the people that it needs to go to. And I think my biggest win with that so far is something that you were very involved in the creation of, which was my talk show episodes. Where I'm interviewing myself.
Which and they're so good.
Thank you. And they're supposed to be funny, and there's supposed to be little bits in there. And we both love I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson, and I'm very inspired by that. So, I wanted to find a way to connect with my audience in a way that felt authentic to me, but is still fits into some type of content lane, right? And so it's just the same thing for me, where it's like I want to create a cool piece of content first and then think about who I want to market it to, rather than solely focusing on how do I go viral, how do I blow up, how do I pop off. And again, that's a super important question to ask yourself, and I feel like we have to ask ourselves that question, because if we don't at least ask that question, we might make something that is just, I won't say stupid, but just that never is going to have a chance to take off. You know?
I feel like then it falls into and this is such a reoccurring conversation, but it's like, I think then things fall into the emptiness. It falls into the burnout category. It falls into I'm just chasing what I think an algorithm might pop off for me, and I'm doing things or trends or whatever that I don't necessarily want to do. So then I'm forcing myself to be the marketer. I'm forcing myself to be the content creator. And now there's this weird fine line of like, I'm turning my art that I care about into content to just be consumed, not to be actually connected with or understood or heard or watched or whatever. And again, it's like, I'm not going to try and vilify everything. Like, there's a fine line of like harmony that can be walked amongst that stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like so much of what you've been sharing is like, well, yeah, I'm still going to make quote unquote content to try and connect with somebody or whatever, but I'm going to make that content be something that I want it to be. Yeah. It's like you can be the promoter and the marketer of your stuff and make the content, but still have fun doing it. That can still be an enjoyable process. I mean, I feel like anybody who's created anything in the last like 10 years has been stuck in that for at least a little while of like, oh wait, am I posting just for the sake of some likes and just for the sake of whatever? And it's like, even the way people use social media nowadays has changed so much to where it's like, people don't really like things anymore. People don't really like.
It's so interesting.
And I will talk with friends so often where like we'll catch up and we'll get coffee, and you know they're like, oh man, I've been seeing what you've been up to. You did this and you did that, and that project was so cool, or that short film or whatever. And I'm like, really? Like, you know, not to turn it into a negative, but I'm like, well, I didn't see a like or comment that thing, you know?
Yeah.
But everyone's seeing the things, though.
Right.
They are seeing and watching and reading and all this sort of stuff, and kind of falling into that lurker category.
Yeah.
But still being supported from the shadows, which is a weird thing. And then I think once something crosses that threshold of getting popular or viral or whatever, then it's more so just like, well, here's a bunch of random people on the internet that are going to fill your comments and like sections compared to your ecosystem directly. It's such a weird, like...
It's so strange, and I have a lot of thoughts on that. And it's almost like there's I have a lot of friends that are really into motorcycles, and one of the jokes like that would kind of hit in that space is, you know, you never want your friends to see you like riding a scooter. You know, like just like a little like Vespa, like you know, you never want your friends to see you riding one of those. And it's just kind of, I feel like the same thing translates, and it's like people on social media are, I think, subconsciously thinking like, so such and such friends are going to see what I'm liking, and it's like I'm not going to like this thing that is like somebody I know taking a risk, or, and I could be wrong. Maybe that's just because I feel like I'm always having to take risks with what I'm posting. But it's just, I feel that way. Like people see it, but they won't necessarily engage with it until it gets past a certain threshold.
I mean, it's the cliche. Like, there's a lot of people won't support something until they see it's cool to support it.
Exactly. Yes.
And even though
that's
it's
the way simpler way to say it.
But even if internally, that, you know, it's like, I know I have, you know, friends of mine who do support what I do. They might not interact on social media, and that's totally okay. But it still is. It makes for a lot of those weird conversations where it's like, well, I don't know, wouldn't you interact with things that you think you like? But ultimately, again, like, even going back to how we started on this kind of little side tangent here, is like, I feel like I have become so overly comfortable in an uncaring way with how I share on social media. Yeah,
you've become very good at it.
And because I went from, you know, and I still do, I love branding things. I love, you know, it's like I've kind of stolen the color yellow. I've made all these little slogans and sayings that people associate with me. Like, I do love doing things like that. I love that side of quote unquote personal brand. But also I've made sure to make it a part of my system, or my life, maybe more so, of just like, I'm just still going to use social media kind of as a public journal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a post with a random photo, and then the caption is gonna be 4 paragraphs of how I'm feeling at that point in time. Or I'm just gonna make a stupid random photo dump of stuff that doesn't serve any greater creative purpose, and my caption is going to be a quote from I Think You Should Leave.
Yes.
You know?
There's a lot of those. I really enjoy those. Those are usually the ones I comment on. Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm going to share a podcast that I care about and share it in a caring way. I'm going to create a short film that I think is very cool and share it and hope that people see that or check out the behind the scenes and want them to engage with that or whatever. But again, it's that harmony of it, of like, I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm not chasing that stuff anymore.
Right.
You know, what I feel like a lot of people are turning into is like, they're just chasing a better version of themselves. And that's how they share on social. Might connect with that, it might not, but ultimately it's like, it kind of doesn't, I personally think it kind of doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's just do whatever you want to do. Like, and again, I say that while also being like, hey, when people brand stuff in a really cool way, I really like that. But I think like that, it doesn't matter, is more so the chasing that past version of success, or that version of attention. You don't have to.
Right.
What do you actually, what connection do you actually want out of something like social media? What actual story do you want to be telling? Is that in a funny way, in a serious way, in an artsy, deep, whatever way?
Right.
And just share whatever things you want to share.
Totally.
And that's whether it's, comedy skits of a fake talk show to promote your music, or just the song itself, or you playing a live acoustic thing. It's like all of those things matter.
Yeah.
All of them matter because they all feed back into who you are, who anybody is as a creative. And so I'm like heavily on team just do whatever at this point. Like
Totally.
Still take it seriously and, brand things in a cool way, have a purpose and a why, but just share stuff.
Yeah.
Just share stuff. Now, I don't want us to sit and try to break down the system of social media this entire episode.
We could spend a lot of time
We
doing
could
that.
definitely spend a lot of time trying to fix something that we're never going to fix or change.
Yes.
I am curious, even, I want to take us back to 2020. Because, again, I had you on before a pandemic took over the world.
Yes.
And or maybe right at the beginning. I don't really remember.
It was I think just slightly before.
Yeah. So at that point in time, it's like you're building up what we'll call V1 of the fears.
Yes.
What then happens when you're like, okay, I've got a band and we're doing this stuff. We filmed some videos. I've got all these songs. We're ready to go. Pandemic shuts everything down.
Yeah.
What happens at that point in time where it's like, I was really getting things started here?
Yeah. So it was crazy because we did have so much momentum with V1 of the Fears, and so many good things were happening, and we had started playing shows, and people around Columbus are starting to listen, and we're just other bands in Columbus are willing to do shows with us, which was cool for me for other bands to be like, yeah, like come play with us, or we'll come play with you. And so again, it was just I was kind of in that infancy stage of like having a band, and these cool things were happening that were all new to me, and we had so much that we wanted to do, and new music that we wanted to put out. I had been traveling to Austin a lot to record new music there, and then pandemic happens, everything just it was a crazy time. I feel like that's another thing we could do a whole episode about. How we all kind of got through that. But yeah, everything was shut down, and then all of a sudden, like, shows weren't happening, venues were closing. I was working a sales job then at that time, just like needed more security, and was just trying to like get through all of this stuff. So I just felt this shift away from music a little bit. And it was really, it felt unfair. I was like, man, finally have all this good stuff happening, and then boom, like everything is shut down. So I just really it was unconscious then, but I realize now that I just kind of shut down, and I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't even bring myself to focus on the things I could still focus on. If I had it to do over again, that would have been the time to really hone in on social media. But yeah, I was just so disheartened and so let down. And, I also kind of fell off again with sobriety, and I feel like a lot of people probably went through that at that time, because it was a very scary time, a very uncertain time. So yeah, I just felt like I was pulled away from my creativity a little bit, from the music a little bit, and I was kind of shifted more into this like corporate America role, and was off the wagon, so to speak. And it just, over those next couple of years, I just really felt myself start to become distanced from who I felt that what I thought I was capable of as a creative person and as an artist. So yeah, I really just became disconnected from that version of myself.
So the catalyst of that being, a worldwide pandemic that, that shifted everyone's lives in some way, right? Some for the better, some for the worse, whatever. With that being the catalyst, what do you feel like it was that kind of continued to make the dominoes fall for you, that pushed it in an opposite way rather than, and I don't mean this in a negative way
Yeah.
at all, but like observationally, just like, okay, rather than shifting anything into, that's the time for, the personal self-care or the doubling down on creation for social or
Right.
doubling down on music and all this sort of stuff. And I don't mean just during 2020.
Sure.
We're talking in the time that comes after that. But like, what do you feel like it was that sort of sent everything maybe in that direction of, okay, I'm just going to, and obviously correct me if, fill in the gaps where I'm wrong, but like, okay, I'm just going to kind of have a job and I'm going to, we're battling with sobriety and I'm kind of feeling disconnected from the music. Like, what do you think it was, or maybe now what do you know it was that kind of was just pushing you in a different direction at that time?
Well, I think that what I've learned about myself and what I've learned through getting sober, again, the right way, and not, I won't say the right way, but the way that was right for me. I think you realize that a lot of times we're kind of wired for that self-destruction. And so that was the case with me, where there was a lot of stuff that I wasn't dealing with as a person, that that made it easier to go down that road and just kind of, leave destruction in my wake. And in this case, really just destruction of my own life and who I was as a person, relationships, all of that stuff. So, I think that it was an opportunity for me to learn that about myself, that and even now I've been sober now for over 2 years, and those things are still lurking. That lifestyle of becoming your own worst enemy and becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, that's something that's always there, right? So it's not like you get sober and then that goes away. You just learn how to deal with that in a healthier way. Mm-hmm. But it can always come back, and I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned from that. And if anything, not grateful for COVID, but I am grateful that there was a catalyst that sped up that process, right? Because I think it took me to, my own kind of rock bottom quicker than I would have arrived there otherwise.
Yeah.
So, it was a lot of, to answer your question, the thing that continued to push me down that road after having a catalyst was all of the things in my life that I wasn't dealing with or couldn't handle, didn't know how to talk about and deal with.
How long, talking about the sobriety journey, how long did it take for you to like really take notice and maybe hit that figurative rock bottom of like, I have to make a change now?
Yeah.
Like,
so I think I was able to be successful in my work throughout COVID for quite a while. And that kind of propped me up a little bit.
That's like corporate work, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes, absolutely, yes. So I was working a sales job. And so I was able to, be successful in that for quite some time. Throughout COVID, like it was fine, money was good, and so that was all great. But then I, kind of got to a point around 2021, I would say, where then I really couldn't like even keep that job, I couldn't even hold that down anymore, because I was just spiraling. So I left that job very, kind of abruptly, and moved to be closer to family and into the house that I'm in now. I think foolishly thinking at the time that like, oh, this will fix things, right? Which it did not. Things just kind of got worse for me. And so, I got to that point where once I couldn't keep that, I couldn't keep that job, and I just was really falling apart. That's when things really kind of got worse. And I think a lot of my family was worried about me. And I've always really been the type to mask what's going on, not talk about it, which kind of goes hand in hand with, I think, falling apart. And yeah, I think for me, like, the final straw was my mom she has Parkinson's disease, which is like a terminal neurological disorder, and that was a big part of what I was struggling to deal with. And so it really kind of came to a head for me when even she, in everything that she was dealing with, recognized that I needed, like, to make a real change, and just that she was worried. And so, yeah, that was a big piece of it. And then, I was trying to go to therapy at that time too. And my therapist at that time kind of suggested, like, hey, you probably need to, like, do an inpatient program, which was kind of like the final straw, I think, for me. Like, hearing that was like, oh wow, like, things have really devolved to this point, so I have to take this seriously. And a big part of what I was fighting then too was knowing that I had stories that I wanted to tell. I wanted to be making music. I wanted that life back, right? But I couldn't even hold on to a piece of it, let alone wrap my head around, how do I start this again, Yeah. So that kind of realization that things were pretty bad, and knowing that music was and is very important to me, and that's what I wanted my life to be, in whatever capacity that it can be, right? Like, whether that means that, I'm just writing albums for the rest of my life and putting them out and hoping people hear them, or I get to a point where I do have a real audience and people are enjoying it and wanting more. I think that I realized that the important thing is just the doing, right? Like, just the act of creating. And so I thankfully was able to recognize that, okay, I'm not there right now, and I'm not going to get there without making a serious change. And so, I committed to doing a 90-day program, and I did it. And there's obviously a lot more that we can dive into there too, but that's kind of the gist of how I got down to that low point, and what inspired me to make a change. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So obviously sharing what you want, mm-hmm. but walk me through what that process is that brings you to sobriety.
Yeah. So a big part of it for me was kind of trying to outrun my past. My dad dealt with addiction as well, and he took his own life when I was 20, and so that was a huge hole in my life that I didn't know how to handle or talk about or deal with. And it also really, that acted as a catalyst for me to start writing music in the first place, because I had always been musical, but just for fun, just get my guitar out in the evening and play around with it. But that gave me something to talk about. But yeah, a lot of that was me trying to outrun the possibility that I might end up the same way. And that was something that I wasn't as conscious of at the time, that I'm more conscious of now. And that's what happens when you get sober and you actually, like, address those issues. Is you're like, oh man, like, it was that all along, and I kind of knew that, but for some reason just could not accept it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think that there's, whether it's an example of directly what we're talking about, or so many other things that any of us can get caught within, there is such a beneficial, I don't know how I'm trying to say this. Like, there's a lot of value in finding that, what I'll call clarity or perspective.
Oh, yeah.
So it does absolutely make sense of what you're saying of like, when we're in the middle of dealing with something, it is very hard to look at any other perspective or gain clarity when you're right in the thick of it. Like, I talk about this often of like how much I value, running ideas or problems past friends or people, trusted, loved ones or whatever, of like, hey, what am I not seeing in this? Right? And that doesn't mean that they're going to have the perfectly right answer that you should do. It doesn't mean just listen to whatever they say.
Yeah.
But there's value in gaining those perspectives. So even if you ask 4 people, hey, I'm dealing with this problem, what are your thoughts? Collect those maybe 4 different or 4 similar answers, and then I feel like you're going to gain some new form of clarity, because that allows us to look outside of ourselves.
Yes.
And am I going too deep with that? Or because I feel like that's kind of a version of what you had explained.
That's super accurate. And what I find is when you're in the throes of addiction, at least this is how it was for me, for one, you're not equipped to reach out in that way, which is a super healthy thing to do. Something I do now for sure with you and other friends, like, hey, what do you think of this? Or, hey, am I looking at this the right way? Or what would your approach be to this? That's something that is a strong suit now, which is awesome. But when I was kind of at my lowest, for one, I just didn't have the capacity to do that. And I noticed too, and this is a term that I learned about when I was in treatment, the term is terminally unique, which means that in this case, I would see my problems as, oh, well, these problems are unique to me and nobody's ever had this problem before, therefore nobody knows how to fix it, right?
I feel that.
Yeah. But the truth is, what works for me will work for you, will work for this person, will work for that person in terms of a program, right? So in this case, working a program to get sober, whether it's some of the AA or NA rooms, or going to therapy, just being in a group support setting, like the same thing's going to work for all of us. We may be different and our situations may be different, but we all got here the same way, and we're going to have to get out the same way. And it's so hard to sever that tie with your ego and realize, I'm not special. This isn't a unique, never before seen problem that only I have, and all of the top experts are going to have to come together to solve.
Yeah. I mean, not that it's necessarily comparable, but like, I mean, you and I were having conversations like that months ago about like the creative industry.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, like, when you're in the middle of it, you do like that terminally unique, thing. That was the phrasing, right? That was the
terminally unique. Yeah.
Like that, like it is like when we're in the middle of something, we're always going to be like, yep, I'm the only person that is dealing with this specific thing. And again, most recently I'm using it as the example of, we were sitting and talking about client work and stuff like that, where I'm like, nobody else in the world gets as many no's from potential clients as I do, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, that's not, it's not that unique, right?
Right.
But that is, and obviously this is the point of it, is like, that's the good part of looking at, hey, your problems aren't special in that sense. You're not that unique in that sense, is like, hey, everybody's been here.
Yeah.
And even when I'm complaining about something like clients saying no, or complaining about a very difficult life issue, whether it's deep or it's not, or it's whatever, like, I do often try to remind myself of like, okay, I'm not the only person that's ever experienced this. Like, I'm not.
And you won't be the last.
Right.
Yeah.
So coming out on the other side of that, I know this is a silly question to word it this way, but how do you feel? When you go through that, is it a cool, I feel rejuvenated, I've learned so much, let's go? Or is it a, oh, okay, like, I'm leaving this, but let me be careful with not, like, I don't want to slip back into anything. Like, what's it like when you come out on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, so I had no idea what to expect from any of it. Starting the program that I went through, everything was new. Everything was a brand new experience that I hadn't had before. And a lot of the beginning of that was trying to shake this kind of uniqueness of like, oh wow, I'm here. When you're down in it, you're like, I would never be there. Like that, things aren't that bad, right? So it was a lot of acceptance in the beginning, and then, I was pretty proud of myself for latching on to the individual therapy that you get when you do something like that. And obviously there's a lot of group setting stuff too, and it's all, really focused on feeling better and equipping yourself to succeed. But yeah, I really latched on to the individualized therapy aspect of it, and found that I was able to identify a lot of what I needed to work on and fix once I had even just a couple of weeks of being just sober. So yeah, I was very proud of myself in that regard, that I was able to identify those things, and all of a sudden I knew my marching orders, and I was like, okay, like I'm here to focus on me, and like these 3 months are literally just for me to improve. And I started to feel a little bit of a responsibility to make the most of it, because a lot of people don't get that opportunity. They don't have like people in their corner that can kind of hold things down for them while they're going through something like that. They have to worry about their bills, or they're providing for their family. Like, I was very fortunate because I did have a window of opportunity of like, okay, you can go do this and like try to fix things and just feel better. So I was like, okay, well, I better not squander this opportunity. So I do feel that I worked hard at it, and a big part of it was inspiration. I won't say inspiration. I really wanted to like do the music thing the right way. And so that was my biggest inspiration to get through it, was I knew that I was capable of accomplishing the things that I want to accomplish. And I felt that like drive. So that was a big inspiration for me, and I was able to like take my guitar and take my drum machine and have some creative time, and like I was able to focus on those things a little bit. But I think the other piece of it that I didn't realize, but another thing that I learned, is that it takes your brain really almost 2 years to kind of rewire itself, and rewire those pathways that it used to be, drinking, whatever, like that is what would you would release dopamine that way. Like you get used to that, and so your brain forms these pathways. And there's a much more scientific explanation than this, but essentially, it's not just going to happen overnight. So the biggest thing that I learned is like the real journey starts after you finish your program, and then it's kind of like, okay, now I need to reassess everything. And I wasn't like instantly just like, oh yeah, things are better. Like I would have dreams that I would have dreams that I was drinking or was fucked up, and like I blew my sobriety, and just like I would wake up like, what the fuck, like, so that like still happens sometimes. And I don't know, I'm sure not everybody has that experience, but I met a lot of people that said oh yeah, I've had that experience. So it took a while to like trust myself again. And it took like a year at least to even feel creative again, which was very scary for me, because I was like, man, like, this is really like what I'm doing this for, is to be able to give myself this opportunity to do this work. And I just didn't feel the drive or the inspiration for it. But after about a year, I started to feel it. And after about a year and a half, I really was able to like start going for it. And, the last pretty much like 12 months were I would say I'm close to probably 2.5 years right now. So the last year was that, year and a half point where I started to feel confident in my ability to do the things that I wanted to do. And that is what has kind of led us really to just sitting here right now. Like that last year really, I developed real confidence, not just like the fake it till you make it confidence, which is nothing wrong with that, and we all still have to have that. But I developed like real confidence in like, oh, I can accomplish difficult things, and I can manage complex tasks, and I can do this.
Regaining that trust.
Actually, the trust with yourself and the confidence, and actually feeling like I have what it takes to do that.
Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong, and if I'm like so off base, we could like cut it out or something. But like, and maybe you texted me after you had done the process, but like, I have this memory. I swear you texted me before you started the program, and literally said, I just want to let you know this is a thing I'm about to be doing, and I would love to reconnect after I'm through. Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah. 100%.
Like you did send a text. And
all of my close friends, I just let them know. Mainly, I mean, obviously you would understand, and all of my close friends would understand, but I didn't want you to like hit me up a week into that process and then just be like, oh, where'd he go? And also it was important to me to make sure I had a support system of people when I finished, that people that would be like, oh wow, you just did this for 3 months and now you're like trying to stick to it. So I needed, that was another important reason to kind of let all of those people in my life know, like, here's what I'm going through, here's what I'm about to do, and afterwards, like, this is what I hope to be doing. And like that yes, that is accurate. I told you that, and I told quite a few other people that too. So.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously this is all like, we're reflecting on the process right now, but like, I do remember like in that moment, like valuing that a lot.
Yeah.
Because like, I feel like during that time frame, again, like in the last, I would say 6 to 8 months, like we've been working together a lot more. We've been, I would say, closer in a lot of, maybe probably closer than we ever have been before.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this in a bad way, but I feel like in years past, it was like, we were friends, but I don't think we were like best friend, spending all this time together. And I remember valuing that so much, where I was like, wow, we have built a really solid friendship, or whatever we had done together up to that point. Yeah. Like, and maybe I'm explaining that in a weird way. I don't want it to sound like I wasn't like valuing things before that, but I feel like it almost made me revalue those things in a new way, where I was like, wow, like, like Nate and I get together once every, I don't know, handful of months, maybe at that point, maybe grab coffee or Chipotle. We had obviously done the Via thing together. I had you on the podcast. We had filmed stuff for the band. But I mean, it stayed in my brain for a reason. You know, I just remember that being like a wow, like this is like I don't know how to explain it. Like it felt, and not to make your story mine, it felt almost good to be trusted with that information or that update. Does that make sense? Like I don't.
No, it makes total sense. I think, you know, in the past, what I valued was way different, and not that I've always valued our friendship, and the same with a lot of my close friends. Always valued them, but alongside that, I also valued getting fucked up, you know? And so that took up a lot more of my time, you know? Yeah. So that just was more, it was just more on my radar, you know? And so I didn't have all this extra time where it was like, oh, wow, like, you know, I have all of this extra time to put into the music or put into whatever it may be, becoming better at cooking, like all of this different stuff that I've been working on, you know, that stuff, that time was just, I was robbing that time from myself to just to put towards, you know, towards drinking. And so, yeah, that is why you didn't hear from me as much, you know, is just because that for one thing, but then also a lot of what I was doing and pushing myself to accomplish, even from a creative standpoint, was just kind of to prove to myself that I didn't have a problem. It was like, oh, see, you just did this, so everything's fine. And so once we would record an episode, it was like, oh, you just accomplished this, everything's fine. And then, you know, you go off the deep end for a while, and then you have to come back and find another, oh, you just did a show here, everything's fine. And that's what's been the biggest change now, is it's like, okay, you just accomplished something, what can you accomplish next? You know, it's just the immediate next step. And so that's the difference now for me. And that's, you know, I feel one thing I've always valued about you, even outside of our relationship, is you've always been that way. You've always been driven to do whatever you're doing in the best way that you can. So, yeah, now I feel like I can relate to you more and be more on that level. You know what I'm saying?
That's cool.
So,
yeah, that's awesome.
So that's,
thank you. Yeah. And that, like, I feel like too, like a lot of that becomes, you learn that like each new checkpoint, each new accomplishment can become a productive next step to the next thing. And it's not about necessarily moving the goalposts and never letting yourself feel the win, because that's vastly important.
Sure.
Don't just keep moving the goalposts, right? But once you unlock that, like, oh, this is just continuous progress, and it's not the like clinging on to like, okay, I did this, I'm okay.
Right.
And then, you know, a bunch of kind of weirdness in between, and then, okay, well, I did this, and it must be, you know, okay, and all that sort of stuff. So I get that. And
I had never experienced that before.
Yeah.
So that's been a big change for me.
Well, I remember even like, maybe this is an incorrect relation that I'm making here, but this also kind of makes me think of like back when I did, you know, give you gratitude for hiring me with Via.
Yeah.
Is I remember being like, hey man, like you paid my bills or helped me pay my bills for the majority of that year. And I remember whenever I thanked you for that, you were like, huh? You were like, oh, like cool. Obviously you were like, oh, that's fun. But now kind of thinking back to that, even with that explanation, it almost feels like maybe like even Via was one of those things where it was like, it happened, and of course we talked about the whole Via story in your original episode. Yeah. But like it maybe was like one of those like, oh, it kind of worked and then it didn't, and it was like, oh, okay, what's that really worth? Let's just move on.
Right.
But it held that worth though.
Yeah, and that is something important too, is like learning to see things for what they are and not just what you feel they are, you know? Because that was a super valuable thing for all of us that were involved in it, and a great learning experience for all of us. Obviously created friendships that like we still have to this day that have like become really important, I think, to all of us. I
mean, you and I met because of Via,
yeah, exactly.
Right? We didn't know. Yeah.
So if anything, like those relationships coming of that make that worth it, you know?
Right.
But at that time, I saw things very differently. Yeah, I saw things very differently.
Take me to the moment where, you know, we're developing this self-belief.
Mm-hmm.
We're developing this new trust and confidence with ourselves.
Yeah.
You said it was about a year to a year and a half before you really feel like you could tap into music again.
Yeah.
Take me to that time frame or moment. When does that unlock happen again where you're like, wait, I think I can catch this creative flow. Like, I feel like I can start to really dive into music again.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I also am a bit of a perfectionist, which is something that I'm working on still.
It's hard to shake.
Yeah, it's really hard to shake. And that's part of, I think, what prolonged that dive back into the creativity was I needed to just start. And then once things, you know, start going, it's like, oh yeah, this is coming back to me quicker than it ever could have before. But yeah, I remember spending just my first winter out of treatment, just very focused on getting through. Like I've got to start getting through the hurdles in my life in a healthy way. And so I got through that and kind of built some confidence, and then the thing that I wasn't satisfied with was that I wasn't really doing anything musical. I was filling my time with other things, some of them healthy things like exercising and cooking, spending time with friends. I've gotten really into golf. I love golf now, which, we can talk about that too. But yeah, so I'm getting into all of these things that I just feel will be, and I'm still going through therapy too. And to this day, I still go to therapy and probably always will forever. And those are all things that I was working with my therapist on, just trying to find, like, okay, what are healthy things that you can start doing that are good for you, that are alternatives that can just start to carry you through. So I'm kind of developing all of these things, and yeah, then I kind of just came to this point where I got my studio put together, and I was ready. Like, everything was ready. All that I had to do was like go sit down and actually start doing stuff. And I was still feeling a little bit of resistance, but I just had, I knew that I wanted to restart the Fears again, because the meaning behind the Fears, why I chose that name, was just that it was everything that I was afraid to do. And I think I've probably shared that with you before, maybe even the past episode, but that was like even more true now than it was before. So I was like, yeah, I think this is still the thing. And I had a handful of songs that, you know, I just needed to finish up and polish. And I had started writing new songs as well. And it just happened very kind of quickly, where all of a sudden I was just recording songs in my studio. And then, yeah, I was like, okay, I think that if I keep this up, you know, I'll have an album's worth of music. And that was really what I wanted to do, was put out an album, because that's just, you know, there's really no substitute for putting out an album. And to this point, I had really only put out singles and put out some videos, and back then I didn't have the capacity or the ability to see an album through. So yeah, I just decided that's what I'm going to do. And so I started recording songs. I decided that I was going to work with a longtime friend and super talented engineer and producer out of Austin. His name's Grant Epley. And I hit him up and I was like, hey dude, like, here's what I'm working on. Here's a handful of the songs. Here's what I want to do. And he was like, yeah, absolutely, like, let's do it. And so I started, saving up and just working on music, and that was where the confidence really started to form for me, because I realized that I was no longer using creativity just as a immediate release and an immediate boost of confidence. It was more so about seeing it all the way through and telling the overall story, not just like, oh yeah, like I accomplished, I was creative today, I finished a song today, I have a sense of accomplishment, now I'm going to go fuck off until I need to feel that again. So that is what opened my eyes to that, really for the first time on my own. And all of a sudden I like had a spreadsheet of like all of the songs and all of the different parts that I needed to finish for each of the songs. And I was like, oh man, like I'm actually making progress on this. Like I'm accomplishing what I want to do. I'm finishing these songs. And so that was it. That was all I focused on, was just like finish all these songs, send them off, let's get them mixed, let's get them mastered, have an album, and then figure out the rest. And so that was last, like, I think I started recording, I started working on the album officially would have been probably March of 2024. And I had all of the songs done and ready to be mixed in like November of 24. And then, yeah, I think that whole process of finishing an album, which was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because I realized it's kind of twofold. Like, not only is it a big project that you're, seeing through from start to finish, it's also way more abstract than something like, I don't know the right comparison, building a deck on your house. Like, it's finite, and it's like, oh, it's done, and it is right.
It's step 1 through 5, and then when you get to 5, you have a deck.
And
like,
here, right. Whereas this is like, well, there could be 5 steps, there could be 100 steps. You could go in any order through all of the steps and still not know if it's done.
Battling perfectionism the whole way.
Exactly.
This step feels done, but is it actually done?
Exactly, yeah. So that was the biggest kind of like boost of confidence for me, was seeing that through and realizing like, oh, you can do things, you know? So yeah, that was kind of the entry back into creativity. And from there, it's been, at that time it was finish the album. That's the only thing you have to think about. And now it's changed because the album is done, and I'm very excited to, write new music again, but I see it differently than I did when the Fears was a full band and a 5-piece band, and we had some singles. Like we said earlier in this episode, at that time the prerequisites were play shows, post some pictures on Instagram, and write some songs here and there when you can. Like, and now it's gone. It's completely, it looks so much different than that. It's, now I'm focused on, okay, I need to think about how I'm going to organize all of these different content ideas, and I need to execute those content ideas, whether it's the talk show or whether it's like a stripped performance, or whether it is talking about an upcoming show, or whether it's, the promo that we'll do for this episode. Like, that I have to be organized and be able to stick to somewhat of a schedule and make sure that I am executing my plan of posting content. So like, content's a piece of it, and then marketing outside of social media is a big part of it. Getting on playlists and running ads on Facebook and Instagram, trying to build a following. So I'm thinking about that. I'm rehearsing for shows. So I have to constantly be doing a rehearsal. I try to rehearse at least 4 or 5 days a week.
Which I'll interject real quick. You freaking kill it live.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that. And that's like it took a lot of hard work to like get to that point. I used to just practice. I would be like, oh, I booked a show. It's in 2 weeks. Well, I'll just play every day for these next couple weeks, play a show, and then fuck off for a while. But now it's like, no, you need to practice. Like, you need to really practice, and you need to learn. I'm taking voice lessons, which has been hugely helpful. I've ignored being a good guitar player for so long that I've started taking guitar lessons. So like those are two aspects, like learning and improving as a musician. So I have all of these new moving parts now that I have to think about and manage, and being able to focus first on just finishing an album, and it's like, okay, cool, it's done, you did that. Okay, now you have like 5 different areas that you have to balance and put that same amount of time into, but keep it all afloat, right? So I said this before, but like getting the confidence to manage complex tasks, like that's something I never had before. And I'm sure you feel that too with what you do. It's like, oh, I have to worry about this part of it, but then, like I have to post on social media about this project that I'm working on. I also have to show up and execute for this client. I also need to get this proposal out to potential future client. And then I also have to email back this client so they're not mad at me. Like, and so it's the same thing. It's like the balancing act of all of that, and finding the time to make all of it the best that it can be. And I also do. I love to draw. I love to paint. I love printmaking. So I do all of my own album artwork,
which is so sick.
Thank you. Yeah, I do all of my own album art. I make my own concert posters. I'm going to be doing some prints of tickets for a show that I have coming up. So I'll have physical tickets to sell. And I'll be like selling some of that artwork on my Patreon. So just all of this stuff that goes into it, has given me another boost of confidence to where it's like, oh, not only did I knock out the very first thing, getting sober, the next thing, finishing the album, and now it's like, oh, now you're doing a good job of handling all of the parts that are going to go into making this album the best that it can be.
Yeah. And we all know things are easier said than done. There's always tons of behind the scenes that's like, well, this sounds cool, but this is freaking still hard to get done. Like, yes, I do the same thing where like, something looks cool, but like, hey, you don't know what goes into it, blah, blah, blah. But I will also say, like, especially hearing this and seeing a lot of the process that you've been through and what has come of it creatively and all this sort of stuff, like, there is a part of me that, like, I feel like I look at all that stuff, though, and I'm like, yeah, like, all of those things, even though you're managing each of them, and it is sometimes can be a daunting list, I feel like the way that you're getting to accomplish them from an outside perspective feels like one big cohesive art project, though.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like and maybe this is just my perspective because I try and look at things that I do like this, so maybe I'm projecting this, but like a lot of what it feels like is it's a lot of this is more of a get to than a have to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like
I think so.
Like you're getting to make your own artwork for this song to release it. Yeah. Yes, you have to do the artwork for the song and record the song and promote the song and all those sort of things. But like I feel like that get to pops up when the process becomes a part of it, not just the checklist like we were talking about earlier of like, I just need to get there and get it done so then I can just move on to the next thing. Where this feels like everything is kind of intertwining and everything is feeding into one another. And again, yes, we are doing the marketing of songs and albums, or we're doing the marketing of our creative ventures like everyone does. There are those checklist items that we feel like we just need to do. But like, I don't know, at least just watching you and being as close to your process as I have been, a lot of it feels like you're just getting to create a bunch of art and you're getting to do it in such a, I don't know, just creative way, as stupid as that is to sound, or as stupid as that sounds, like, just kind of sounds like you're getting to do stuff in your way. And so it feels like, oh, what a big, cool project. Not like, I need to try and get this done, and then I hope maybe I'll get to something else down the road. Like, I don't know if that is a proper assessment or...
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Logically, yes, like, if you want to accomplish, whatever this goal is, you have to do this. But the truth is, you actually don't have to. Like, you don't have to do anything. And so I think get to is a very important distinction to make, because as part of what helped me build confidence was I started just by default wanting to do all of those things to support the music, right? Not like, oh, I've got to make myself freaking do this. And no, it was like, oh yeah, I'm going to make all the artwork too, and I'm going to make the posters, and I'm going to do this. And then I just started like doing that stuff. And yes, of course, there's like nights like where you're just like, I don't really want to, but I got to sit down. But yeah, I mean, that was an important distinction, was realizing like, I don't really have to do anything. I don't have to finish the album. I guess I'm doing it because I want to.
Yeah, it feels more exciting.
And having having the wherewithal and the capacity to finally realize like, oh, you're consistently doing something because you want to do it. That was a really important moment for me, like an important light bulb, like aha, like things made sense. Yeah.
Have you, this is probably not a silly question because I feel like I know the answer, but like, have you started recording a lot more music, like new music, even though we're at the time of us recording this, the album is still in the midst of coming out?
Yeah, I think that's like the next layer of complexity that I haven't gotten to yet, is adding that back into the mix. I'm definitely writing, I'm definitely inspired, but I'm not in the studio recording regularly right now, just because I am trying to get through this album release, and I want to make the most of the music when it comes out. And there's so much cool video content that's being created alongside this right now, which you've been a part of, and Josh has been a huge part of. And yeah, like, I want to give all of that stuff its moment, and I want to utilize it in every way possible to elevate the project. And so right now I'm really focused on making the most of the next, like, if I were to start a timer from the moment the album came out, the following year, like, I want so much of the time to be dedicated to getting it to as many people as possible, and allowing them to experience the real story behind it, not even just hearing a song, but really getting to experience it. So that's my biggest focus right now. I am kind of itching to get back in the studio though and start recording again. I have some songs that I've just been, messing around with on acoustic guitar or on the piano, and like I said, I've been putting a lot of time and effort into learning and getting better as a musician too. So I'm excited to see, what things I've leveled up in my skill set. So I haven't quite gotten to that point yet where I'm ready to really dive into recording on a regular basis. But there's some one-off things that I have on my plate too that I'm excited about to be in the studio for. So
what's also cool too, having been to your house, been to the studio now, it is rad that, like, obviously you're redeveloping this house, and you've got your entire studio in there. Yeah. You've also got an entire room that's dedicated to quote unquote content. You've set up the green screen. You've got the props. It's again, like, it is. I kind of said at the beginning of this episode where it feels like originally in our original conversation, it was like, oh, this is Nate, my like creative marketing friend who also does music. Where
Yeah.
now it's like I feel like music is the number one thing, and and you're able to literally create yourself physical environments that all play into creating a better benefit to make for this project. So all you got to do to film one of the talk show things or film it live, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You hop into the room next to the studio.
Yep.
You flip on a camera, turn on a light, and you're able to film. Like that's such a cool setup in general.
Yes.
But also, I do think that it feeds into the kind of the structure that you've now allowed this art form to make in your life. Like earlier you were talking about like the dopamine hits, right? Where like in the past, things can often be this like we get that sense of accomplishment, we get that sense of a dopamine hit of like, oh, I made that thing, now I'm just gonna go fuck around over here until I come back for that other hit.
Yeah.
Where this feels like music and creation of art in general has structurally become a foundational element in your life.
Totally.
Am I going too deep with that?
No,
Does
no,
that
no,
seem
no.
like...
Yeah, I think that, so in a lot of ways, my new baseline, like the behavior that takes me to my baseline, my, just my calmest setting is rehearsing. Like that is what I do that, and I all is right in the world, which feels so good to have a healthy thing, like especially that is music related, be my baseline. It's very it's a reminder that I'm like on the right path, because I'm like, man, like not only do I get to do this, like I love doing this, so that feels wonderful. And the other things are slowly becoming that too. I think that the content creation is a whole new thing for me that's been very enlightening and very difficult. So I'm really kind of at this like still a little bit of a struggle with that, where I'm trying to just get myself into that groove and learn as much as I can about it. The things that are really hard for me are like anything where I can't hide behind production. If it's just a quick video of me talking to fans and saying, hey, I've got a show coming up on this day at this place. Those are hard for me for some reason. Just doing like an acoustic version of a song just with my phone, again, you can't hide behind any of the production that you normally would. So those are super difficult. So yeah, I'm working through that and just trying to use what I've learned so far and apply it to that. But things are much like I've made so much headway in that space in comparison to where I was like in 2019. So yeah, everything is moving in the right direction.
We've probably touched on this a bit, so if it's not some crazy answer, you can be like, yeah, we talked about it. But like looking at what we'll call V2 of the Fears comparatively to V1, what's maybe the biggest difference, or what are the comparisons that relate, or just how does this version of the Fears feel compared to the first go around?
Yeah, I like to think that it's much more honest, at least when I think about the subject matter of the songs and the music. It's much more bearing of kind of some of the things that I've gone through. It's maybe not as cryptic, and it's much more authentic to me, because a lot of the music that we did in 2019 with the band was songs that I had written, but maybe had some help with on the production side of things, or that I had, had some other people play parts on. And that was because I just didn't feel that I had and I didn't at that time. At that time, I did not have the ability to produce my own sound or to play all the parts for everything. And so for this album, I really decided that I was going to set a lofty goal of like, okay, I'm going to produce all of this myself, and I'm going to play everything, and not because I think that I'm even a great player, because I'm definitely not, but just because I wanted it to I wanted to know what it would sound like and feel like 100% from my point of view. So that's different. That was a big change for me to kind of take that on. And then I had Grant mix it, and he did an amazing job. And he's produced a lot of songs with me, and in a lot of ways is secretly a producer while he's mixing too. It's like really, it's just cool to have people like that on your side. Seeing that through myself, and then being able to hand it off and say, all right, let's polish this up and get it mastered and see what it sounds like. That was very different, because I was used to in the past having hey, can you come play guitar on this, and here's what we're going for, or hey, can you come play drums for this song, or whatever the case may be. It was different this time around, because I was I'm gonna do all of this just because I need to know what it feels like and what it sounds like. And so that was a big change. I like to think that a lot of it is just much more thought out as well than it used to be. I put a lot more time and effort into just getting things right, and I won't even say right for me, just the right feeling. So yeah, I guess I would say that's the biggest difference. Is it just feels a little bit more mature for me, and I'm sure that the next record I'll be like, man, this that wasn't mature at all,
Right. We're always going to find.
But that's that's the fun of it now. Is oh, I'm going to do the next one so much better just from what I learned from this one. Yeah. So, yeah. I was forced to let go of making it perfect, and just made it as good as I could with the tools and skill set that I had at the time.
Yeah, authentic and organic.
Yeah,
I feel like is the
totally.
When you look back at, well, luckily you've been on the show before, so we've got an exact time frame.
Yeah.
From your first appearance on the show, to now, what has been your favorite discovery or thing that you've learned about yourself through all that's changed?
That's a good question. I think my favorite thing is just the skill set that I've developed to be able to handle difficult things in my life. I used to think that, I just need to get to this point or this place in my life, and then everything will be okay. But now it's really more about how can you make exactly where you're at as good as possible. And so, having actual tools now at my disposal to be able to get through a bad day or change the way that I'm looking at something because I'm caught in an unhealthy outlook on something, or just even to acknowledge, you know what, you're just not having a good day, and tomorrow will come, and it'll hopefully be better than this one. So I mean, I don't know if you phrased it as a favorite trait about myself or what's changed and what's my favorite thing that has changed, but just having a skill set now to be my own friend and my own companion and my own cheerleader, and just to care for myself. Yeah.
Let's play pretend for a second.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that somebody is watching or listening to this, and maybe they're in the same situation that Nate from a handful of years ago was. What are you telling that person? What are you sharing with them?
I would say that if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I truly was, when I was in that place, did not have any ounce of belief that I could actually get to where I wanted to go, while simultaneously having enough like unhealthy ego to believe that it was right around the corner. So yeah, I would say to that person that it's not out of reach, but it'll be harder than you think, and ask for help. And whether that's like, hey, I need help, I need to get sober, like I need to go somewhere, or whether it's just like, you know, you need to reach out to friends and say, hey, I'm going through a tough time, like this is what's going on. No matter what the case may be, you can't do it alone. And my favorite saying has become that if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together, which is so true. To wrap up my thought on that is just you're not alone, but you will be if you don't ask for help from anybody, whether it's a therapist or a friend or a parent or a sibling. Like, just don't you? It's scary, but just do it. It'll be. You'll be better for it. So, yeah, there's nothing really like groundbreaking or earth-shattering there, other than just you need a support system, and if you haven't gotten to a point where you can be your own support system, you know, you have to find it elsewhere, and they'll help you get to that point. So, just don't focus on getting where you're going with your tribe of people.
I got one final question. And you have answered this once before, but it was 5 years ago.
Yes.
So I don't know if you remember it, or if you're going to answer it the same or different, but we'll find out. Because it's your turn once again. Right now, we're going to play pretend one more time, and I want you to pretend that everybody in the entire world, we're throwing logic out the window. Everybody is listening to you speak right now, and you got a live mic attached to all of them. You get this moment to share one thing with everybody. What are you telling them? And what do you really want them to hear more than anything?
I think that I would say whatever your dream is, or whatever it is that you know deep down you're capable of, you should go for it. And there's really nobody watching at the end of the day. 100 years from now, we're all going to be dead, and none of us will really matter. So, just go for the thing, and give it everything you have, and make the most of it.
Hell yeah, dude. We did it.
Yeah.
We made our second podcast.
Yes, we did.
And we didn't even make mention of the good liar that you were drinking.
This whole time, people were probably like, this dude's drinking beer, talking about getting sober.
That would be wild.
So this is NA beer from Columbus. It's called Good Liar, and it's my favorite. And I miss beer. I do.
And now you got something to
a
little plug here.
Yes. Go for it.
Good Liar. Hey,
yes.
You want to sponsor a podcast, or you want to be on the podcast?
Yes.
Whoever knows the creator, owner of Good Liar, I want you to be on the show.
They're the best.
That is hilarious.
Yes.
That, I didn't think about the fact that we didn't point that out earlier.
Everybody's
people are like,
what's up with this
sobriety journey? Ross just letting them chug beers while they're talking. Dude, before we officially tell the people goodbye, we've been talking about music and the fears and an album and all this sort of stuff. Where can people check all of this stuff out at?
So, on Instagram, we are at fears.fm. Same on TikTok. Facebook is just the Fears. And you can find me on Spotify if you just search for The Fears, or anywhere you stream music. Fearsmusic.com. I've got show dates there. I have links to Spotify and everything there as well.
Dude, I'm very, very thankful for our friendship.
Yes,
over the years.
I am too.
I genuinely am so stoked that we, have gotten to create in all the ways that we've been able to create, but also just maintain a very solid friendship that I would say has only gotten stronger as time has went on.
Yeah.
So yes, I value you and your friendship a lot.
I value you in the same way, and I do feel like our friendship and relationship has only gotten stronger, and I think that that's because of things that we've both been through, because everybody has been through something, and it's a rare occasion that people can go through something and get better for it, but then do it alongside a friend who is kind of going through a similar but different thing. So you're one of those people that we've both just had similar growth spurts through our life and have always been able to stay connected through those. So that's super. As I get older, I realize how special and how rare that is. So
100%.
Yeah, it's super cool, man. So
Yes.
I'm happy to be here, and I love your show. I love everything that you do. So
Yeah, dude, thank you. Man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We made it happen, dude.
Yeah, we did.
We made a podcast.
Yep.
Podcast number 2.
Podcast number 2.
Officially in the books.
And in 5 years,
Podcast number 3.